Everybody, and welcome back to the Creative Life Studios. Today we're going to be playing in Micah and using the decorative border plate from the Faith Impressions line and some paints from Deco Art from the Americana line. I'll list the colors below. We're also going to be using a Thinnabar stencil. I'm going to go ahead and just lay that stencil on top of my plate, and it kind of suctions down to the gel plate so I don't have to worry about it moving around. And now I'm just going to add just a few dots of each of my three colors. You can tell that it doesn't take a whole lot to do this particular project. I'm also going to put here in the video, you would have seen it before we started, kind of the inspiration for this color scheme. It's this really pretty succulent that I saw, and then there are colors that kind of go with it. I used it I'm using it in our Faith Impressions group on Facebook, which I'll link below for you guys to join. But we're just, every Thursday, we just throw out kind of an inspiration, and this week I was throwing out a color inspiration. So you can see I just lightly brayered all those colors over and then lifted my stencil up, giving me a great kind of circular pattern, almost similar to like a bubble wrap kind of thing. But I got that great kind of multicolored going on between those three colors. And I just lined it up with the edge of my Bible, and I'm just pressing it down a little bit so I get a nice impression. And then I'm just going to lift my acrylic block up, and voila, my border is all done. I decided to use the scalloped edge of my Faith Impressions decorative border plate because it kind of mimics the circles that I was using for my stencil. So just to kind of reinforce that idea, I am going to go ahead and just hit it real quick with a heat gun and just let it, that way it's done and dry for the next part. I'm also going to grab my small 4x6 gel press plate, and I'm going to be using this actually as a palette. So I'm just going to take my same three colors and apply it to my small plate. And I'm just going to use my brayer just to kind of mix those colors around. I don't want to over mix them, just really just brayering them out to give me a surface. Because I'm going to grab some of my bubble wrap that I always keep on hand, because who doesn't love bubble wrap? And I'm just going to use that just to kind of lightly add the same pattern of circles to the rest of my page, just to kind of mimic that color scheme and mimic that circular pattern, but just so the rest of my surface isn't just blank. That way I'm adding some color, but I'm not going crazy and having to paint the whole surface. So just lightly dabbing all of those all over is all I did. And then I am going to grab my heat gun again and go over it just to make sure that it's completely dry. Because I'm going to be picking up a Sharpie here in a moment, and I didn't want to risk gunking it up with any wet paint. It was all mostly dry, but just to be on the safe side, I went ahead and did that. And so I'm grabbing my Sharpie, and I'm going to be focusing in Micah 4 is where this particular entry is. And there's 4 different places in verses 8 through 12 that say the word daughter. 3 times it says daughter of Zion, once it says daughter of Jerusalem. And I just thought that was really important to kind of focus on for this project. Because in the Bible, Zion can mean heaven or joy. And so that's kind of where I'm going with my title that I'm starting right here. I took out just some old foam stamps that I've had for a long time. And I'm again going to use my small gel press plate as a palette. You can see I've added some of the pink there. And I'm just popping out the letters that I need from my foam alphabet set. So I had the O and the Y, and then I realized I was missing the other sheet of alphabet stamps. And so I decided instead just to kind of DIY, I guess you would say, a J. So yes, that is the question mark upside down, and then that is the letter I that I'm going to use to kind of extend that up to make my J. So once again, I'm just using my brayer and taking that pink color and smoothing it across my plate just to use as a palette to be able to stamp my letters onto my page. And I love this color pink. It is called, I think it's Carousel pink. I think that's right. It is, yes, it's called Carousel pink. So it's kind of, you know, maybe a shade darker than like a bubblegum pink. Almost the color of my hair, kind of. And here's where I'm going to go ahead and just take that upside down question mark to make the hook part of my J. And I'm just going to press it down like I normally would. Give it a good press. And then I'm going to snag my letter I. I'm only going to add the paint to like the bottom half, bottom 2/3, because I don't really need all of it. And you can see my paint just started to dry out just a smidge, so I had to give it 2 little dabs in the paint. And I think that kind of works. It's a unique little J, and it's, you know, I didn't have a J, so I had to go ahead and just go with this. So once again, I'm going to hit it with my heat gun before I move on to the next step, just making sure that it is completely dry. And this next step I'm going to speed through because I'm going to spell out the words daughter of in some old black letters that I have from 7 Gypsies. They're kind of a little difficult to deal with because they are so small, and then if they have like the E's and the A's that have, of course, the centers, they're a little difficult to get out. And then weirdly enough, I didn't have a lowercase h, so I had to switch to a big H, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And so I thought it was a little weird that there was only one large uppercase letter, so I went ahead and switched the D out just to kind of make that uppercase H make more sense, and then threw an uppercase R at the end. Again, mainly just to make it make sense for that weird uppercase H to be right there in the middle. And then I'm kind of playing with the of, trying to figure out what the best position is. And I decided just to kind of move it over, but I felt it was a little off balance, so I went ahead and just added those just 3 dots just to kind of give it some more depth. And now I'm just going in with my Sharpie, and I'm not being super precise. I'm really just kind of doing scribbles around just to make those letters pop a little bit more, and just giving them just some definition. And then I decided maybe they needed a little bit more definition, so I just went in and am adding a shading, almost like there's a shadow behind it, but not a solid shadow, just kind of a scribbly shadow, just to give it some more depth. And you can see I'm adding those boxes, and I'm happy with the way that turned out with giving it just some more depth. And now I'm grabbing some white jelly rolls. These are new, so if you've ever worked with these, they're great for adding white accents, but they take a couple of tries to get the ink flowing really well. So you can kind of see I start and then I go back over it a little bit more, and that's just giving kind of like that catch light shine onto my letters. And I'm also doing a little kind of curve of white on all my little circles just to kind of give a little bit of a hint of kind of like bubbles where it has that glimmer. And so I'm pretty happy. I know it's super simplistic. I'm adding my date, of course, and then just circling those verses to kind of reinforce that idea. And so there we go. Our project is done. I hope you enjoyed it, and you will subscribe for more Bible journaling fun. Thanks for stopping by.